I downloaded and played the biggest Dragon Ball games I could find on the Playstore. Official games, fan-made games, Roblox experiences, offline fighters, and even games that looked way better than they had any right to on a phone. And after spending hours testing all 5, I realized something I honestly didn't expect. The game with the best graphics isn't my number 1. The game with the most characters isn't number 1 either. And one of these games is so simple that I almost deleted it after 5 minutes. But somehow, I kept coming back to it. So today, I'm ranking the top 5 Dragon Ball games you can play on mobile right now. And trust me, number 1 completely changed what I expected from a Dragon Ball game on Android. Let's get into it. Number 5. Stickman Warriors. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Stickman Warriors? Seriously? But hear me out. This was the game I expected to spend maybe 5 minutes with, and somehow I ended up playing way longer than I planned. The first thing that hits you is how simple everything looks. You've got Stickman characters, simple environments, and 2D combat. Compared to the other games on this list, it almost looks like it belongs on a completely different level. But then the fight starts, and suddenly, you're flying across the screen. You're throwing energy attacks. You're transforming into Super Saiyan, and you're chaining attacks together so quickly that you forget you're basically fighting with stick figures. That's what makes this game surprisingly fun. The controls are fast, responsive, and incredibly easy to understand. And because the game is so lightweight, you don't need some expensive flagship phone to enjoy it. It can run on relatively modest Android devices, and you can even play it offline. That last part is a huge deal. No internet, no waiting for a server. Just open the game and start fighting. Of course, there are compromises. The graphics are extremely simple. The free version also throws quite a few ads at you. And this isn't an official Dragon Ball game, so don't expect the polish of Bandai Namco's biggest releases. But as a lightweight Dragon Ball-inspired fighter, it's actually pretty addictive. I'm giving Stickman Warriors a 7.5 out of 10. Not the best Dragon Ball game here, but probably the easiest one to recommend if you just want quick offline fighting. Number 4. Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. Now we move into completely different territory, because Dokkan Battle doesn't care about giving you traditional Dragon Ball combat. Instead, it turns fighting into a puzzle, and somehow, it works. The first time I played it, I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to be doing. You've got these Kai spheres on the screen, and your job is to connect them together to power up your characters. It sounds ridiculously simple, but then you start building teams. You start thinking about character categories, link skills, transformations, leader abilities, and suddenly, you're spending way too much time trying to create the perfect team. That's where Dokkan gets dangerous, because it starts off casually. You play one mission, then another, then you pull a new character. Then you realize that character completely changes one of your teams. And suddenly, you've been playing for an hour. The biggest strength here is the amount of Dragon Ball content. We're talking about characters from Z, Super, GT, movies, and practically every corner of the franchise. And the animations can look absolutely incredible. Some of the attacks feel like miniature Dragon Ball episodes. The downside? If you're looking for direct, fast-paced fighting, this isn't it. And the gacha system can definitely test your patience. You can spend a lot of time chasing that one character you really want, but there's a reason Dokkan has survived for so many years. It's ridiculously deep, and there's always something new to collect. For me, that's an easy 8 out of 10. It's not the best Dragon Ball fighter, but as a collection and strategy game, it's one of the biggest Dragon Ball experiences on mobile, and we're only at number 4 because number 3, that's where things get serious. Number 3. Dragon Ball Legends. If Dokkan is about strategy, Dragon Ball Legends is about throwing yourself directly into the fight. And this was the moment during my testing where I thought, okay, this actually feels like Dragon Ball. The first battle I played was Chaos. Characters are flying around the arena. Kai blasts are going everywhere. You're dodging attacks, teleporting behind your opponent, launching combos, and then suddenly, you transform. The camera moves in, the animation kicks in, And for a second, it feels like you're watching the anime instead of playing a mobile game. That's the biggest strength of Legends. The combat is fast, it's flashy, and most importantly, it feels responsive. You aren't just watching your character fight. You're constantly making decisions. When do I dodge? When do I attack? When do I switch characters? When do I use my ultimate? And if you're playing PvP, every mistake can cost you the entire match. That's also where the game can become frustrating. The gacha system can be brutal. Getting the exact Ultra or LF character you want isn't guaranteed. And when you run into a heavily optimized team online, let's just say, you know exactly where your money went. But visually, this is still one of the most impressive Dragon Ball experiences you can put on a phone. The animations are ridiculous, the roster is massive, and the game has its own original character and story content, including Charlotte. After playing it again, I completely understood why so many Dragon Ball fans still come back to it. Dragon Ball Legends gets an 8.5 out of 10, but don't go anywhere, because we're only halfway through, and the top two are completely different from everything we've seen so far. One of them gives you the freedom to build your own Saiyan, and the other one turns Dragon Ball into something I genuinely didn't expect. Number 2. Final Stand Remastered. This one surprised me a lot, because Final Stand Remastered is running inside Roblox. Yet somehow, it can give you one of the most satisfying Dragon Ball experiences on mobile. You don't just select Goku and start fighting. You create your own character. You explore. You train. You fight enemies. You unlock transformations. And eventually, you start feeling ridiculously powerful. That's the fantasy Dragon Ball fans have always wanted. You start weak. You train. You get stronger. You unlock a new transformation. And suddenly, the enemies that destroyed you earlier are getting absolutely destroyed by you. The open world makes a huge difference too. You can fly around and explore different areas, train your character, fight other players, and experiment with different abilities. And the transformation system is probably the highlight. Going from basic Saiyan forms toward god-level transformations and Ultra Instinct-style power. It gives you that feeling of progression that a lot of mobile Dragon Ball games don't quite capture. But it's not perfect, because you're playing through Roblox, which means performance depends heavily on your phone and connection. Lag during a serious fight can completely ruin the experience, and the learning curve can be pretty rough when you first start. Still, for a fan-made experience, this is honestly impressive. Final Stand Remastered gets a 9 out of 10, and that means we've reached the final game, the one I didn't expect to put at number 1. The one that completely changed my expectations. Number 1. Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra. This was the biggest surprise of the entire list, because when I first saw Gekishin Squadra, I wasn't convinced. A 4v4 Dragon Ball MOBA? At first, I thought, how is this supposed to work? Dragon Ball is about insane one-on-one fights, huge transformations, massive energy attacks. So putting all of that into a team-based MOBA sounded strange. Then I actually played it, and I got it. This game isn't trying to be another Dragon Ball Legends. It's doing something completely different. You're fighting as a team, 4 players against 4, and suddenly, your favorite character isn't just a powerful fighter. They have a role. You have attackers, defenders, support characters, and winning isn't simply about having the strongest character. You actually have to think. You have to move with your team. You have to pick your battles. You have to know when to attack and when to back off. Then the transformations happen. And this is where the game starts feeling like Dragon Ball again. You're in the middle of a chaotic team fight. Everyone is attacking. Energy blasts are flying everywhere. And suddenly, your character transforms. The power jumps. The fight changes. And one good play can completely turn the match around. That's what hooked me. At first, I wanted a traditional Dragon Ball fighter. But after playing Gekishin Squadra, I realized I didn't need another traditional fighter. I wanted something new, and that's exactly what this game gives you. It's also one of the most demanding games on this list. You're looking at several gigabytes of storage. You need a decent Android phone, and you absolutely need a stable internet connection. Because when 4 players on each side are fighting at the same time, even a little lag can ruin everything. But when the connection is good, it's chaos. Beautiful Dragon Ball chaos, and that's why I'm putting it at number 1. Not because it's perfect, not because it has the biggest roster, and definitely not because it's the lightest game here. I'm putting it first because it took the biggest risk, and somehow, it worked. Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra gets a 9 out of 10 from me. So there you have it. 5 Dragon Ball games, 5 completely different ways to experience the franchise. Stickman Warriors if you want something lightweight and offline. Dokkan Battle if you love collecting and strategy. Legends if you want intense 1v1 action. Final Stand Remastered if you want that open world sci-fi fantasy. And Gekishin Squadra if you want something completely different and want to fight alongside your friends. But now, I want to know, which Dragon Ball game would you put at number 1? And do you think Gekishin Squadra deserves the top spot? Or would you give it to Legends or Final Stand? Drop your ranking in the comments. And if you enjoyed this list, hit like and subscribe. Because there are a ton of new anime games coming in 2026. And I'm testing the best ones so you don't have to. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out!